All right, so you're like a child that's wandered in the movie theater halfway through and you're wondering what's going on. This is Donny Cast for the 11th of July, 2022. I am your host, Walter, on the good lie and the greater good. Yeah, I have been told that I am supposed to begin showing the glasses half full side of the story. And to be honest, most of these stories they end up do having silver linings to them, so I should get into it. So obviously the big story today is those Bidens sure do like 10-year-olds, dude. Um the other thing is some house cleaning stuff. I think I might edit a short video and just plop it in the front of all the Donny casts. I'm wondering what you guys think out there in Normieville. So let's just get into it. So the main story, I was discussing this yesterday with somebody that I had heard about the 10-year-old. Let's just see how to edit this for YouTube. The 10-year-old girl who had uh been engaged with some type of alleged well, let's say the 10-year-old rape victim that the Joe Biden hauled out there and made some kerfuffle about in regards to the good old the abortion debate that's going on. And I had heard something about it from outside sources, but I hadn't heard very much about it, and there's a reason why I hadn't heard very much about it. So when I was talking to the person I was talking to yesterday, they were like, "Well, I'd heard this and I'd heard that off of their source, their news sources that they get, and they're the person I was talking to is mostly let's just say a normie." And so I was like, "Well, the only thing I kind of heard is potentially that there was this family member involved, but couldn't really tell you much about the story other than Joe Biden was running his mouth about a girl that is supposedly from Ohio, 10-year-old girl from Ohio who had gotten pregnant somehow, some way, and she needed to get an abortion. And that led her to have to go to neighboring Indiana because, in Indiana, they don't have as draconian of abortion laws that they do in Ohio. So that's kind of the story. And I hadn't even heard that much about it, but one of the stories I was reading, they said that they knew that this had gotten a little bit of traction because the teenagers that they had interacted with had heard of the story and they were wondering what's going on in the story. So today, I did a little bit of my digging, and in this one, I would pull it up, but the Washington Post decided that they were at least dubious enough of the story. Jeff Bezos' uh, propaganda wing of his empire was dubious enough of the story that they went and they did their own fact check, and they were rather lenient on the senile pedophile in chief, to the point where they had to acknowledge that there doesn't seem a lot of is to the story, to quote Bill Clinton. So as they point out, it's a single source that came from this Indianapolis OB/GYN Dr. Kaylin Bernard. And we'll get into this in a second with this good old Dr. Kaylin Bernard. But she was the one who basically somehow got her name inserted into the story. And as you see, the fact checking site Snopes said on Tuesday Bernard had refused to provide any further information. So it gets a little bit more interesting. So I have here in the New York Post article, just to start off, just the tip, just to see how it feels today, that we've heard something about this 10-year-old girl. It sounded fishy, obviously, like the details or lack therefore of. Even the Washington Post is a little dubious, as it says in this article. I clicked on the article that the New York Post provided for the Washington Post fact check, and it's behind a paywall. So fuck you. It says a single source, Indianapolis OBGYN Dr. Kaylin Bernard, claims an Ohio child abuse doctor contacted her after determining that the young victim was 6 weeks and 3 days pregnant, 3 days too late to obtain that dreaded abortion under the restricted Ohio abortion law triggered by the Supreme Court's Dobbs decision. The Dobbs decision being the Supreme Court case that reversed Roe versus Wade. So, as I already pointed out, the fact checking website Snoops.com said on Tuesday Bernard had refused to provide further information. Surprise, fucking surprise. On Saturday, the Washington Post added the child services agencies in Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati, Dayton, Toledo, and other Ohio cities were unaware of any 10-year-old rape victim in their jurisdiction. this is how propaganda is laundered as news. Even creepy Uncle Joe couldn't help but say something about this propaganda news that I had heard through secondhand sources and teenagers had gotten and discussed with reporters about, because what the fuck's going on. So this writer, for she's a right wing pundit. I already have the article pulled up, so I don't know why I have to go someplace else. So anyway, Megan Fox, as you can see here with her thread, as I go click the wrong direction. Megan Fox is a right wing pundit. She's not necessarily a journalist. I wouldn't go that far. She has a political agenda. She says she works for PJ Media and Medium Smart, Twitter, rando, pronouns, winner. So anyway, this lovely young lady, she decides that she's going to go fact check what's going on. She listed 10 ways that it was probably bullshit. The I read through them. They're not all that compelling in and of themselves, but they are a good rebuttal of what's going on. So her number 6 is Dr. Kaylin Bernard, who we talked about before. The only source is an abortionist and has been in the New York Times participating in an anti-Trump hit piece in the past and is clearly an activist. She has a stake in perverting abortion. Literally, it pays her bills. And as I move on from good old Kaylin Bernard on on the Twitter, we see Kaylin Bernard, MD, MS, assistant professor of clinical OBGYN for the Indiana University. Her bio is not particularly interesting. There's nothing particularly super great. I would point out that this is taxpayer dollars that are at best funding someone who has bad judgment, and it has an ideological axe to grind. And at worst, she's ideologically compromised liar. I'm sure our COVID response in this company or this country wasn't compromised by any of these partisan type hack physicians that have their own agendas that they're pushing. So the idea is, how is this actually a lie that's going on about this 10-year-old rape victim in the country? Well, you see, by law, child abuse, like sexual assault, has to be reported to law enforcement. And with all the super leaky public institutions we have, like police departments, there's no news going on right now about any police report or investigation matching the sexual assault of a 10-year-old girl. So right off the bat, we can call bullshit, because good old Kaylin Bernard, the MD out of that's getting paid by more than likely both uh, the tax dollars of the state of Indiana and the federal tax dollars that are going to the Indiana University. So your tax dollars are paying for you to have information laundered into the media for the purposes of bullshit. Good old Kaylin Bernard here and her friend, the supposed doctor from Ohio that called her up, would have to be such ideological pieces of shit that they aren't really concerned with the welfare of a 10-year-old girl, because she's has political value to them, and they're not concerned about justice for the broader society. That they just made this shit up. Those are your two options: fuck the 10-year-old, or we just figured out a way to lie without lying, because you can't fact check this without like potentially violating laws, or fuck you, it doesn't matter, so all we have to do is get it out into the media and then fuck you. So that's the extent of this case, that Joe Biden himself, good old creepy Uncle Joe, who never saw a fucking underage girl that he couldn't wouldn't put his hands on. So good old creepy Uncle Joe decided he was going to tout this out there and talk about this 10-year-old girl who more than likely objectively does not fucking exist. So that is your tax dollars at work laundering political stories into the zeitgeist for use for the agenda of protecting abortion in this case. Not limited to, but just in this case. So moving on from Joe Biden, the piece of shit, the senile piece of shit that he is, uh, too stupid to actually fact check. Him and his administration are too fucking lazy and incompetent and stupid to fact check the fact that a 10-year-old girl either was raped and there's no investigation going on because of it, or she wasn't raped, but fuck you, we'll just run with the story because it fits our agenda. Not going to be the last time that happens today. So the other news of the last weekend was the infamous Hackerson's Day of 4chan are leaking information allegedly from Hunter Biden's iPhone, his cloud, and yikes. And I'm not going to get too far into this 450 gigabytes that are supposedly out there in the internet, because supposedly it's getting taken down. And I've seen a couple of the pictures of that. And let's just say I have seen enough of good old Hunter Biden's peepee that I no longer need to see his peepee anymore again in my life. So, um, so again, like I pointed out, like with my notes, what the fuck is up with Biden's and 10-year-olds, dude? Allegedly, a person listed as pedo Peter is in this iCloud, iPad, whatever, that was leaked out into the internet. Some people are saying that this is the pseudonym that good old Hunter is using for his father. There's no confirmation behind it, even though it is confirmed that Joe Biden did use the pseudonym Peter Henderson in the past on emails. So who Hunter Biden is calling pedo Peter, I don't know. Um, Also, there are supposedly searches for 12-year-olds, porn searches that Hunter was looking for. There's pictures of him using drugs and prostitutes, I guess, that are on there. Like I said, I saw a whole bunch of his peepees in pictures. There's texts and video pictures and all that good stuff that are going on. He also good old Hunter Biden, who never saw underage girls or family members or crack rocks that he didn't like. Good old Hunter Biden also called, allegedly, for legal purposes, allegedly called his stepmother, creepy Uncle Joe's wife, Jill Biden, a cunt. I'm sure this family reunions must be fucking absolute drug fueled fucking orgies. So anyway, the normies will never hear about this, just like the last time the infamous laptop of hell that was dropped off by Hunter Biden in uh, a computer repair shop in Connecticut, I believe it was, and he just fucking left it there because he's fucking retarded. And then also Joe's daughter with Jill, who left a diary alleging inappropriate activities she engaged in with Daddy Dearest. Of course, normies will never fucking hear about this because fuck you. So those are the two main lead stories of the day. I don't know exactly how much actual value they have in the real world, but sometimes you have to sit there and go, and in this case, as my co-host has pointed out, I have to point out the silver lining. What's the silver lining is those people that are in the know are going to fucking know about this, and it's just again signaling the emperor has no clothes. The presidency of the United States has more inflated value than it actually has. It's seen right now that we have an executive branch that is at best asleep at the wheel, and at worst actively trying to torpedo the country, and the country's still functioning. It's almost like we have enough checks and balances in places that a senile pedophile, corrupt piece of shit who never never met a kickback or a child that he didn't like can't run the country into the ground, even with the best efforts of his ideological compromised administration. That's the good news, because now it means the states, who were also asleep at the wheel, go, oh shit, maybe we could steer the car back onto the road before we fucking hit a redwood tree. So let's see, moving on from that, that's the obviously the lead story of the day. We'll move on to the next lead story. We ended the last Donny Cast on Friday. There just wasn't a lot of media about this. I didn't really feel the need to go much further into detail on this on over the weekend. And every time I watch a lot of YouTube, I read a lot of articles, I read a lot of other stuff. And if other people are putting out stuff that I am already thinking, I kind of lose the motivation to do it myself. And in this case, a lot of people were coming out after I had already said that Twitter laying off staff is probably going to torpedo the deal with Musk, or at least it would put the deal with Musk in jeopardy. And then he axed the deal sometime on Friday afternoon. Other people were pointing out that this is Twitter burning itself to the ground because they're in a death spiral. There's no way they can get out of it. So in this case, Musk tweeted a meme of himself. I believe it's in here, right here. So it's Elon Musk tweeted a meme of himself where it's a picture of Musk that says, "They said I couldn't buy Twitter, then they wouldn't disclose bot information." Um, let's see, we're going to Twitter. It looks like him tweeting himself on Twitter of him burning the company to the ground. And it says, "Now they want to force me to buy Twitter in court. Now they have to disclose bot information in court." So this just shows the great state that Twitter is actually in. Anybody that owns Twitter stock or doesn't understand how these woke companies are functioning right now, the board of Twitter is fucking stupid. Like certifiably retarded, because they just got outplayed by a guy who tweets a meme of himself on Twitter. So the filing that Musk put out there, again, showing that I'm right. The filing also states that Twitter fired 2 key members, high-ranking employees, laid off a third of its talent acquisition team, instituted a general hiring freeze, and more without Elon's consent. So again, that was the filing that Musk and his legal team put out about why they are pulling back their offer to buy Twitter, because Twitter's fucking stupid. The board is. And this again is Twitter burning itself to the ground, which should be a pretty indication of how it's actually run behind the scenes. Regardless of Elon Musk's games, or if he was just trolling them all along, he never intended to buy Twitter. There's certain people saying that this was just his way of shorting Tesla stock or liquidating certain assets without shining a spotlight on some of his other business dealings. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. He could be doing all the above, because none of us have $300 billion that we can just go playing with. Um, so if to explain why this is Twitter burning itself to the ground, in Elon's meme right here, it's once Elon Musk put an offer in that is so over the actual value of the stock price, the board is obligated to take the offer because it's so high above what the value of the stock price is. Because if the stock price was actually that value, it would literally be reflected in the stock price. So he puts them over a barrel and says, "I'm going to give you more than market value. You have to take this offer. You're actually not running the company with any fiduciary responsibility." So Twitter board eventually has to sell it to Elon Musk. And Elon Musk says, "Well, now I want you to open your books so I can make sure that the company that I'm going to buy is actually worth the value that I think it's worth by the offer that I gave you." And then the Twitter board, allegedly, according to Elon Musk, never provided the information to him in either a timely manner or in a usable manner to Musk, because he actually said that at certain points they just overloaded him with information, and with the quote unquote fire hose, and he couldn't actually look through it. So then when Elon Musk pulls his offer from Twitter after all this shenanigans, it signals to anybody with a brain that the company has no clothes. It is not worth the value that is currently on Twitter stock, nor is it ever going to reach the value that Elon Musk offered for it. So you might want to get out of fucking Dodge, and you shouldn't invest in this company because it's run so poorly it can't sell itself, and it's probably engaging in some type of fraud. That's why Twitter's burned itself to the ground, and it's fucking glorious. I don't care what the reason is, because ideologically you could go fuck yourself. So let's move on to, and that's a good thing, as my partner pointed out. That is a good thing in the why the glass is half full. It's because whenever we can as a culture remove a cancer, it doesn't matter if it's done because the body can fight it off on its own, or because you give it a nice heavy dose of another poison in the case of chemo or Elon Musk, and you're getting rid of that cancer regardless. So, moving on to world news, and we got a whole bunch of world unrest here, which is some very angry Dutch farmers. This is a Twitter channel called Radio Geneva. I just like the tweet because it shows how these Dutch farmers are blocking traffic in the Netherlands. Very angry Dutch farmers block border between Holland and Germany. Harsh protests in many Dutch cities after politicians' decisions to close dozens of farms and cattle ranches to reduce nitrogen by 30 to 70% to comply with fuck you EU regulations on nitrogen pollution. So that's what's going on there. I'll leave this up for a second to talk about that. So that's continuing to go on, and there's reports that they're blocking, obviously highways and ports and entryways to cities, and they're not allowing other food shipments to get into the supermarkets in the Netherlands. The prime minister of the Netherlands is some guy, Root, that has ties to the WEF and obviously the new world order, the EU regulations, and all that good stuff. So anyway, that's what's going on. And again, I have to point out that as we circle back to it like a redhead stepchild, more internet shenanigan rumors. In this case, involving the Netherlands again, because we have Bill Gates funded green grocery burns to the ground, sparking conspiracy theories. So we have uh this company called Picnic that last year Michael Miller, this is from the article, Miller, the 57-year-old CEO of Picnic, told the Dutch financier news site, quote, that most of the 604 million that the company raised from investor to fund its European expansion came from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So if you're not aware, Gates is buying up a metric fuck ton of world farmland. I believe he just closed a deal in North Dakota buying more farmland that squeaked through scrutiny. Even if you don't know about it, or even if you don't know that you're poking a sleeping bear, you're poking a sleeping bear. In this case, what am I talking about? Well, obviously, whatever Bill Gates's Picnic company is with non animal based meat, plant based protein, whatever the fuck he's got going on there. Uh, However, this store burned to the ground. It burns to the ground. It looks like bad optics. You have a guy that's buying farmland. It is stoking conspiracy theories, and when you have people going back, I probably shouldn't have pulled down the Twitter article when I did, but just to show that's not the right Twitter article. I wanted to show the good old Twitter thingamabob of the Dutch farmers, blocking traffic. When you have people that are pissed off already, and they're doing things like taking their tractors and blocking traffic, um just giving them more fuel to their fire, whether or not it's real or not, like Bill Gates is buying farmland and fuck you, we're going to take your jobs, you're going to own nothing, and you're going to like it. um People are going to react like it's sleeping bear, and if you poke a sleeping bear, I have some idea of how that sleeping bear might react, but I don't know for sure how that sleeping bear will react once I start poking it with a stick. And let's say you have a highway full of sleeping bears and they're just blocking traffic, and you just keep poking them with sticks, and then stuff burns to the ground. I don't know how it happens. Certain people might put two and two together and make up their own minds, or it just might look really odd that these things are happening among a global food crisis that's going on, and governments that don't seem to have a particularly heavy interest in the outcome of their own country's well-being. I don't know. Like, take the conspiracy theory any way you want about a global billionaire that's doing whatever the fuck he wants and expecting a different outcome. So put that in your corn cob pipe, smoke it however the fuck you want. It is going on in the world, but we have more unrest that we're going to be looking at. In this case, this is a Barron's article. It is very short. I believe this is the one that is short. I don't know if it redirects. Yeah. So So we have mass protests in Buenos Aires amid Argentina inflation crisis. In inflation ravaged Argentina, rival left and right wing protesters take to the streets as the country remains gripped by political chaos caused by economic minister Martin Guzman's resignation. Um, so this is coming out a little bit. Well, I should pause real quick and talk about the fact that if I didn't already, that I had a friend of mine stop by today from out of town, and we hung out for a little while. That's why this video is coming out late. On top of the fact that there was so much fucking news that came out today, and I was trying to go through it all. On top of the fact I had someone come into town, so this story pops up about this, and then we go to another Barron's article. This one has a little bit more because I was like, well, I would like to know a little bit more about what's going on in Argentina. Argentina will honor economic goals agreed with IMF new minister. Well, the International Monetary Fund. This is going to pop up fucking again today about more civil unrest that's going on. So anyway, Argentina's new economic minister, said Monday that the country would honor fiscal deficit goals and other commitments made under a deal struck with the IMF to refinance some debt of some $44 billion. So uh, there's some stuff in here that's interesting, but it's rather dry. The interesting thing, as I wrote in my notes, is let's bury the lead at the very fucking bottom of the article, you pieces of shit. A survey by Argentina's Central Bank of Projections for 2022 inflation put the rate of at some 76%. So Argentina's prices in their country have nearly doubled in 2022. And you wonder why they're out in the streets fucking rioting at this point after their previous minister of finance, economic minister, quit after making a bad deal with the IMF to get the country's bad financial decisions under control. Yeah, I wonder what's going on in Argentina. When it comes to your poor state of running your country and why your people are fucking angry. So we go on from let's run our country poorly through corruption and mismanagement in Argentina to see that Sri Lanka, the small island off the coast of India, Sri Lanka's political chaos persists as crisis talks go on. And I mean, this is just another issue of, I literally pulled the corruption and mismanagement off this article. You see that there's a whole bunch of the plebs of Argent or Sri Lanka in the presidential mansion taking pictures on the thingamabob. There's them working out like I. This looks like the White House, or excuse me, the Capitol in the United States, the insurrection. There, no one's calling there's an insurrection going on in Sri Lanka right now, but that's what it looks like. They also were working out, like they're just hanging out. Like this bro's like, hey, I'm gonna take my shirt off, take a nap on the presidential couch. They're in there, like they were swimming in this pool. Let's see, they got there's more pictures of them swimming in the pool. There's pictures of them using the presidential exercise room. Like, look at that. Like, you have a country that's not doing very well economically, but you got this banger of a gym in the presidential manner. You have cops and military that are just hanging out because fuck you, because our country is being run into the ground. And in this case, the talks by the opposition party leaders to form an alternative unity government is an urgent requirement of the bankrupt nation to continue discussions with the International Monetary Fund, because fuck you, right? So you have two countries that have run themselves so poorly that they are de facto being run by the International Monetary Fund to pull themselves out of their corruption and mismanagement. And again, when you start poking the bear, like let's just have rampant, out of control inflation and the inability to get food to our peasants, and then they take it to the streets. So yeah, go ahead and continue to poke that bear and expect a different outcome. So do we have more world news involving poking of the bear? Well, we do, because in China over the weekend, I guess we had according to Chinese media, they had $1.5 billion frozen in rural banks. And the authorities are investigating these three banks out there in China where they had these large protests. that had to be broken up by police. And if you're unaware, China does not look very highly upon protests. This is an interesting article, as I said, segue a little bit. So CNN is putting out an anti-China article. Fucking surprise of all surprise. CNN, the Communist News Network, which it's known as in some circles. So China crushes mass protest by bank depositors demanding their life savings back. So and it's a black eye to the communist nation of China, who tries to pride itself on being centrally run, and not making mistakes. And then you have protesters going out there in the article, CNN trying to actually do their unbiased best to help their damaged brand. The demonstrators are among the largest China has seen since the pandemic, with domestic travel limited by various COVID restrictions on movement. Last month, uh, this Chinese province authority, it's Zhengzhou or something, whatever fuck. Authorities even resorted to tampering with the government's digital COVID health system to restrict the movements of what the fuck, to restrict the movements of the depositors and thwart their planned protest, sparking nationwide controversy. So in this, it actually talks about how in order for them to protest, they actually have to show up with Chinese flags, so it looks like they're having some type of patriotic assembly, so they can try and get their money back from the bank that was frozen by the central government, among, again, corruption allegations that are going on with people that can't get their cash. And again, it's a black eye to good old China, who obviously you can't protest against the government there, and then they have to arrest you and then make you sign a document so you can get out, that you won't do stuff anymore. I mean, it's just, yeah, uh, crack some more skulls, China. You're doing a bang up job, just like the West is. Let's see. So to transition a little bit from that, today's story. CNN boss Dave Zaslow asked network to return to journalism as ratings tank further. So I bring up the story. I was really surprised to see like an attempt at some type of unbiased reporting by CNN, which shocks the fucking shit out of me. And as I pointed out, like, the brand is very damaged, and the customers that CNN still has want their fix of ideologically bent worldview nonsense. That hit of I'm on the good guy team and the other side is the bad guy team, and they ain't getting it anymore. That's just causing the ratings to tank even further. In the article, it points out all CNN is now, or excuse me, this is me talking. All CNN now is an outlet to produce propaganda and launder news like 10-year-old girls to the Bidens. So people go, well, what about that story going on in Ohio? That's what CNN has been reduced to in this case. Now, it points out in the article that the actual employees at CNN are worried that the further tanking ratings are going to affect them. That may be true, because Zaslow might be there to kind of put lipstick on a pig so they can sell the property. Because right now it's a damaged brand. It's a laughing stock. So at least if he can put some credibility on it, it can get sold out from under Time Warner, or Warner Brothers Discovery. Uh, you know, that's the big thing that's going on, because again, chasing this ideological bent. And it points out in this article that the country is ideologically divided. So trying to put out unbiased news is not what people want. I would tend to disagree with that. That would be like saying there's no point on Coke selling to Republicans. Fuck you. Um, People are going to take the best product, and if you're putting out the best product, they're going to tend to go to you. If they want sensationalism and they want to chase ideological news, then they'll go to a different channel. There's an MSNBC and a Fox for a reason, but there isn't that good down the middle reporting. And that's why a dude can sit in his garage and talk about how fucking pedophilic the presidential family is. So moving on, as I was talking about, they're worried that they're going to get shit canned, and it probably doesn't matter at this point. He's just putting lipstick on a pig to sell them. I didn't write that down. I just liked it the first time, so I said it again. So let's go from there to back to the states. So we have some news. Judge blocks massive school choice law in West Virginia. This is to piggyback on the fact that we have uh, voucher programs that are coming out in Arizona. This is another voucher program, and the judge here in West Virginia stopped it for the time being. But obviously, because the school systems in the U.S. are so broken, and they're ideologically bent, that people want their their funds. They want their tax dollars back so they can go to private schools or homeschooling expenses, as it says. Um, and it's not quite as universal as the Arizona law, which is basically here's your money. We don't give a fuck what you do with it. But again, it's a move in the right direction. West Virginia said yes, and a judge said no. And again, now we're at lawfare, and I don't have a lot to say about this at this particular point in the story, other than we'll have to see, what happens in West Virginia. But I would have to say that you're probably not going to have a very happy populace of West Virginia. That if they have to send their kids to public school in West Virginia and they're getting taught things like CRT and child sexual grooming, they're not going to be fucking happy. And if they can't get their tax dollars back to go to do other things, West Virginia may be a Democrat state because of their coal unions, but they are generally socially conservative. So sucks to be that fucking judge, right? But that's just a good. It is news in the right direction of fixing a problem, which is the education system in the U.S. You know, I actually looks like I didn't actually do my darndest when it came to going over these articles because my friend showed up today, but I did read them. I just didn't write anything down. So we have. I didn't hear about this too much about this. Um, but I guess over the July 4th weekend in Richmond, Virginia, two illegal aliens were arrested for plotting a terrorist attack on a July 4th celebration. They're both from Guatemalan citizens, 52-year-old Julio Avellardo, blah blah blah, and 38-year-old Roman Alberto, whatever. They're both here illegally. One of them was here on an expired visa. The other one, like, who fucking knows? They both have uh, con- connection to the Mexican Los Zetas cartel. We'll talk about Mexico here in a second. So they had guns, which you're not allowed to have as illegal, and you're not supposed to have it. You're If you're here legally, there are less restrictions on your ability to get a gun, but in general, like you don't have a Second Amendment as a non-U.S. citizen. They were arrested and charged with planning this attack because there was a quote unquote hero, good Samaritan, that found out about it and dropped a dime. Good for them. And then in good old, woke U.S. politics type of manner, uh, we have a Breitbart article, as I pulled the same one up twice because, I'm a super professional individual. We have this Breitbart article: illegal alien gets $15,000 bail after allegedly plotting July 4th mass shooting with another illegal alien. Yes, Virginia, you fucking suck. Uh, this is you get the government you deserve. So the I think it's the 38-year-old was given the $15,000 bail, and the 52-year-old was held. And this is interesting. Even though prosecutors urged a district judge to withhold bail from Dubon, the judge handed down a mere $15,000 bail that may allow the suspect to be released before trial. And again, if he gets released, I know where I'm going after planning a terrorist attack to the U.S. I'm going south of the border down Mexico Lane, and I get the fuck out of there. You'll never fucking see me again in this country. But fuck you. It doesn't matter. We don't have rule of law anymore. Why is this a good thing? uh, well, hopefully the people of Virginia are like, we need to do something about the fact that we have fucking retards running our criminal justice system. But again, keep poking that bear and expect a different outcome. So moving on to more Virginia news. So I don't know that much about Glenn Youngkin. He's the governor of Virginia. But he's been getting a lot of traction lately. Business Insider is a left wing rag. They kind of suck, big wee wees. And anyway, he's coming out and he's running a suckhole. I kind of would have to guess that I think I wrote down my notes. I believe the left is trying to push Youngkin as some type of legitimate candidate because they believe they can beat him in 2024 presidential election as opposed to Trump or DeSantis. He's kind of got a reputation as a rhino. Like I said, I don't know that much about the guy. But Virginia lost. Ralph Northam, the previous governor, got in there and really did some fucking stupid shit. He's a Democrat, and the country the state kind of flipped back red because of stupid shit Ralph Northam did in Virginia. And then you got Glenn Youngkin, and Glenn Youngkin is quoted in this: "The invasion of our capital." He's talking about January 6th. Was awful, and it's a blight to our democracy. And I agree. As much as I go, it's good that the government realizes that they don't fucking run this country. The people do. That's a good thing, but it's still embarrassing that it occurred. And this is an attempt by Youngkin to appeal to a normie voter that has that similar mentality to what happened on January 6th. And it's not going to appeal to the energized base of the GOP, because the energized base of the GOP sees what happens on January 6th a much different way than your normie or your left winger, which your left winger is not going to vote for Glenn Youngkin. Your normie is important to win that election, but if you don't have an energized base, they ain't showing up anyway. So it doesn't matter if Governor Youngkin is able to get the normie voter. And he continues, "I have to be honest, though. I talked to thousands of Virginians, and the topics they want to talk about are not about January 6th." So Business Insider is a national publication. Why they're talking about the governor of Virginia talking about January 6th, I don't fucking know, other than the fact that they are generally scared of going up in the 2024 elections against Trump or DeSantis. And to move on from good old Youngkin, the idea of Youngkin being a neocon, kind of a liberal in wolves, or excuse me, a wolf in sheep's clothing, a liberal in conservative clothing is a way to put it. The rhino versus the conservative. Um, Going back to good old Breitbart, right wing punditry. Liz Cheney funded Obama, Hillary donors in GOP primary. So Liz Cheney is getting money from people that supported Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, because Wyoming is the reddest fucking state in the union, and Liz Cheney is about to get blown the fuck out by Harriet Hagman in Wyoming. And I believe it has in here that she's down by 28 to 30 points. Liz Cheney is down to Hagman by 28 to 30 points in polling um, in May and June to Hagman. She's going to fucking lose. There's an interesting idea about Liz Cheney. We democratically elect our representatives. We are a republic. And our elected representatives are supposed to serve the will of their people, but at the same time, we are electing them because they're are supposed to be more informed and better suited to make decisions. So while I can respect the idea of Liz Cheney potentially following her own moral compass, you're also supposed to serve your constituents' will at the same time. And the issue is, if Liz Cheney is following her moral compass, um, and it's not the will of her people, she will get voted the fuck out of office. And if you're not aware, Liz Cheney voted to impeach Donald Trump based off of the January 6th debacle. So, if the uber red base of Wyoming is like, nah, fuck this bitch, this fucking neocon rhino cunt, get her the fuck out of office. Well, I hope your moral compass was worth it, Liz Cheney, because your constituents are like, that's not what we want. And we'll get into that here in a second when we talk about the Republican Civil War that appears to be going on in Nebraska. And again, more stories that I'm like, what? So Nebraska Republicans fire chairman at tumultuous convention. Nebraska Republicans have fired their longtime party chairman at a tumultuous state convention that highlighted divisions within the party, driven by activists who support former President Donald Trump and want to take the party further to the right. So again, the idea going on in this is Republicans were sharply divided during spring's gubernatorial primary battle between two conservative candidates. The eventual winner, Jim Pillen, and the businessman Charles Herbster, who was endorsed by Trump. The article talks about the fact that Herbster had allegations of sexual misconduct that went on with it. If you haven't been following the news a little bit, there's some ideas about the Trump endorsed populist wing of the Republican Party and the more rhino neoconservative wing of the Republican Party. This little civil war that's going on. So obviously, the fact that you have a more, let's say, rhino and Jim Pillen versus the Trump populist that's quote unquote more to the right, and Charles Herbster is again the divide that is going on internally within the Republican Party. There's a similar divide going on in the Democrat Party. But the idea that we have, this is me obviously from my notes, but the idea that we have this ideological purity test going on within these parties is fucking not good. And this division is bleeding into our national stage. There's a difference between an opposition party and the party that can't operate because they'd rather fucking shoot themselves in the foot arguing about how to slay the dragon. In the end, they prove the Democrats correct that they are fucking functionally retarded and probably shouldn't have the public's trust because they're doing things like arresting members of their own party that are showing up, having their credentials revoked, and then refusing to leave, so they have to get fucking arrested for trespass. This is the current state of the Republican Party in Nebraska. Not something that you necessarily want because, again, you don't want all the members of your party in lockstep because you want internal dialogue to be able to solve problems best. You know, you know, diversity of opinion. And if you have some type of ideological purity test, all you're going to get is a very stagnant. You're going to get stagnant ideas on how to solve problems, or you're going to have stagnant ideas when it comes to viewing the world, and you're going to see uh, dragons when there are only windmills. That's what's going on in Nebraska. It's not good stuff. But hopefully, there's no silver lining. I don't fucking care. This is just stupidity going on. And it's fallout from the direction in general that the Republicans have taken their own political agenda versus the Democrats. Because if you're not playing by the same rules, you're not playing the same game. And in this case, the Democrats have not been engaging in fair politics in the U.S., and the Republicans are just fucking incompetent, uh, impotent party. Again, a tampon in a bullet wound. So I don't really know what's going on in with Nebraska. I don't know if they're going to get more conservative politicians or they're going to get more rhinos like Elizabeth Warren, or excuse me, Liz Cheney. I don't fucking know. Um, but it seems like that we are having the same type of division within the party as we are having as a country. And like I said, I would, if I had to identify, I would be more of a libertarian, and in this case, as a libertarian, I would say anything that is less government and less stupidity, I'm fucking all over. So I don't really care what way the political the party of Nebraska, the Republican Party of Nebraska is going, as long as they're just less government, less stupid, and I don't fucking know. So now to the fact that we have the president of Mexico. He's coming out and he says, don't vote for that party in regard to the Republican Party of Texas. The president of Mexico is Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador. He's quoted as saying, if there's a candidate from a party that mistreats immigrants and Mexicans, we're going to ask our countrymen there that don't vote there that they don't vote for the candidate for the party. Can't fucking make this shit up. Um, Hola, pinche pendejo. Secure the border of your own fucking country so the governor of a foreign state doesn't have to do it for you, you corrupt piece of shit. And Mexico being like one of the biggest fucking corrupt piece of shit countries in the entire fucking world because they're essentially run by fucking narco terrorists. And this stupid fuck is like, oh, well, our countrymen that are in the US don't vote for the party that's trying to secure the border of of border of the country that they neighbor, because that country won't fucking secure the border because there's too much money for the drug cartel bringing drugs and human trafficking into the fucking US. Can't make this shit up. On top of the fact that I'm curious if you're asking your illegal countrymen in the US to cast their votes, or the countrymen that are in the US that are quote unquote citizens of the US, that they're supposed to vote against the interests of their own country and state because you want open borders in order for you to get more of your fucking kickbacks from the fucking drug cartels. I don't know what you want. So moving on to good old Governor Abbott. of Tejas, and he's going up against Beta O'Rourke of the Democrats in Texas. And I keep seeing these articles pop up almost daily about how close Beto O'Rourke is to in striking distance of Greg Abbott. In this case, it says that they're not real close. The Real Clear Politics average of Texas polls show, and Real Clear Politics is fucking left wing as shit. Shows that Beto is trailing Abbott by 6.3 points. Um, O'Rourke has an average support of about 41% compared to Abbott's 47.3%. And they keep repeating over and over again that Governor Abbott is declining in regards to Beto O'Rourke. This comes, after the shooting in Uvalde and other things that are going on, including Governor Abbott's handling of the Texas border, declaring an invasion at the southern border down there, and mobilizing his National Guard and state police to do border enforcement. So articles like this are meant to show a steady shift towards a blue Texas until that day that Texas pops blue through election fortification or legitimate means, you fucking pick. So moving on with more US state news, let's get to our weekly daily move the fuck out of California, because California is fucking garbage. So Governor Newsom says California will make its own low-cost insulin. And I read this story and I was like, get the fuck out of here. This is the literal definition of socialism and fascism, because remember that fascism is just honest communism. So Gavin Newsom said that funds are broken down by $50 million going towards the development of low-cost insulin products, and the other $50 million will be used to build a California-based insulin manufacturing facility. Fuck you. Fuck you. California is taking $100 million to think about making low-cost insulin. They have $50 million that are just going to be thrown away into your butthole, that it goes to kickbacks and corruption, because it's not going to actually do anything, because as the article states, it's going towards the development of low-cost insulin products. I've got a fucking $100 billion fucking bullet train to sell you that still hasn't been fucking built in California, and another $50 million that will use to be to build a California-based insulin manufacturing facility. So the insulin manufacturing facility doesn't actually exist. Neither does the products, the low cost insulin producing products. It's $100 million that is literally being laundered, because fuck you, California. Some critics question if the state involvement in pharmaceuticals is the right solution. Some critics. While there is no timeline on the governor's plan, some douchebag believes it could be a model for other states. No, it's not. It's a model for not other states to be doing shit. No timeline. $100 million. God, fuck you. It's $100 million that doesn't do anything. It's a fuck you to the problem that private enterprise could have done cheaper and more efficiently had the state of California not fucking taxed and regulated everything into the ground to the point where pharmaceutical companies would not fucking spit on a forest fire in California. Like, they're like, get the fuck out of Dodge. And we'll talk about the population and business leaving California, and how California, its debt anchor is going to be the fucking needle that pops the fucking recession balloon in the US coming up here. So we wouldn't have the state getting intertwined with private business. You're hitching your wagons to the state's discretion without the corruption, right? This is nonsense what Newsom's doing by having state control of an industry that they drove out of the state. So now the state can basically have insulin if and when the state actually gets around to creating low cost insulin products along with this insulin facility. The best case scenario that you're going to get out of it is the state is going to be able to ration this insulin to whoever they feel like it's going to or not going to go to. And again, as I already pointed out, this is the definition of socialism and fascism. Problem that causes this problem the state causes, so it can try and fix it in the future. And at the end, this is just optics to give votes to Democrats. And it's also the Leviathan that's California choking everybody to fucking death because it just doesn't fucking care, right? And as we move on to why you can see why this is such a bad idea, we have more California is asshole. So fighting chance, California can't deny rent relief after tenant sued state after program. More fucking stupidity of California. So you have this let's see, the group teamed with strategic actions for just economy and research institute whatever blah 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 to sue this this California relief program that denied funds to hundreds of thousands of renters without due process. People turned in their applications and the state just said, nah, fam, fuck you, without explaining why or providing them with chances to appeal. They just denied it outright. During the year and a half the program has been active, it's provided more than 3.9 billion in rental assistance to more than 340,000 tenant households throughout the state. So again, you have $309 billion of taxpayer dollars that just fucking disappeared into the ether to 340 tenant households, a problem that the state caused again by shutting its fucking self down. So where's this fucking $309 billion coming from? I don't know. But as the article continues, backlogs and long applications requiring lots of documents have frustrated tenants and the nonprofits and social service agencies that have helped to seek funds. HCD, whatever the fucking stupid program in California, also denied about 33% of the tenant applications it reviewed as of June 23rd, according to Western Center of News releases. Again, if you make low cost insulin products in California, all that means is when someone applies to get the low cost insulin program in California, the state has this arbitrary lack of due process to say, I'm not going to give you your insulin and I don't have to give you a fucking reason behind it. Same thing they're doing with this rental release stuff that's going on. Get fucking the private or the public sector out of this shit, because all they're going to do it is do it they're going to mismanagement and they're going to just have heavy levels of corruption where this tax dollar, this debt disappears into the ether and causes more fucking inflation. So the Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency supported it in late June, or reported in late June that 30,000 Sacramento County households applied for rent relief but didn't receive any funding, according to the Sacramento Bee story. So like you just have people applying and there's no checks and balances to it in the first place. You don't know. This is after they fucked up their COVID relief for unemployment that was going to fucking prisoners in the state of California, and they were going after $20 billion in the fraud behind the COVID relief that was being given out in California. So now you have willy-nilly people that are saying that they deserve the money, that they're not being told why, and then you have other people where they're just arbitrarily giving the money to other 340,000 tenants of a problem that the state fucking caused themselves, taking taxpayer dollars to fucking pay itself back. You can't make this shit up. Again, as I pointed out in my notes, this is playing the lottery with taxpayer dollars, and it's corruption either because it's too lax to actually properly vet people, or it's too strict and it's actually not giving the money to the people that need it. There's no middle ground in which this can be run correctly. And again, it's a problem the state caused, and it's now trying to fix. And by trying to fix it, it's just trying to buy votes for the next election cycle. It's fucking retarded. So going on, as we're gonna probably go like 2 hours of me ranting into the fucking mic in the middle of the night. We have the facade of California's economy is about to crumble. This is a zero hedge article, and there's just heaps of fucking stupidity in this. The types of people leaving California in droves. So I on my notes writing this down, that the people that are able to leave California, California is losing people. They just lost people the last year. It's the first time in decades that California has lost population. The people that are leaving California, this is something called capital flight. These are upper class families and middle class families, the people that have the ability to move out of the fucking state. They're gone. And California's tax burden is the third highest in the nation, behind dumbass New York and blue as fuck Hawaii. And it's rated one of the most expensive states to start a business. It's also rated one of the fucking highest states to have or for property. The cost of living in California is like one of the highest in the country. These financial conditions are brutal on small business owners who employ about 40% of California's workforce. So 40% of California's workforce are directly influenced by the income of the middle class and upper class business owners who are leaving the fucking state. An official GDP of California, 3.4 trillion. If you don't know, California's uh, crowing about the fact it's got the fifth largest GDP in the world if it was its own country. Um, is it the 3.4 trillion California GDP is a distraction? This article writes because once we take into account the fact that government spending is calculated as part of the GDP, it's far less impressive. California is a massive spender. The state of California is a massive spender. 516 billion in state local expenditures in 2019 alone, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. A large portion of the spending is considered part of California's GDP. So, if it was a one-to-one type of thing, California's GDP would is 1/7 of that would just be state spending. If we were to try and just go one to one, obviously it's not apples to apples. It's a little bit of apples to oranges, but in this case, you can get an idea that 516 million billion dollars of taxpayer dollars are just funneled back into the state. Imagine that level of fucking money laundering. To continue, California, I already pointed out, California has the fifth largest standing debt of any state in the U.S. with over 362 billion in total liabilities, including unfunded liabilities. Now, with stagflation being a stagnant economy with rising inflation hitting hard, and the Federal Reserve raising interest rates, there's talk of another Great Recession. Yes. And voices within California are starting to get worried. They know that the state is highly dependent on two primary industries: agriculture, which they've been fucking choking to death for years because they're too fucking incompetent to actually fucking have a functioning fucking water supply in the country. And they fucking taxed and regulated agriculture that they're actually subsidizing it to stay in the fucking state because it's too expensive to have agriculture in the state of California, and government spending with droughts because we're doing things like putting money into fucking black reparations and fucking insulin programs instead of worrying about droughts, which have been a consistent problem in the state, with severe droughts causing severe water shortages and debt getting more expensive to maintain. A recession at this point could pull the rug out from under the state's economy and unmask the Scott, right? And then there's this stupid dumb cunt that like this person pointed out in this article. If I can find the I fucking hate people, experts as they have quote unquote in the state. This person, this Sarah Hinckley, I probably brought her up before, but she works for the University of California, Berkeley Labor Center, and she's advocating in this that California can't afford to repeat the Great Recession. State spending is critical to economic recovery. So what this dumb bitch who works for the fucking Cal State Berkeley, University of California, Berkeley, this dumb cunt, in order to get out of a spiraling downward economy, stagflation, she wants the state to spend more money to stay ahead of inflation. And she's an economic expert. Fuck you. So you have fucking morons like this that are advising the state on how to fucking deal with its fucking economic downturn. And why this is a big fucking problem for the rest of the fucking country is when the fifth largest GDP fucking pops because of mismanagement, it's not going to take down the other 49 states. No, siree, Bob. No, siree, Bob. It's not going to cause a more massive fucking death spiral. So let's go on to, oh yeah, California's fucking retarded. So this is an opinion piece pointing out that this is how fucking retarded the state is. This is an opinion piece warning the California legislature that is blue as fuck, that they're fucking too stupid to realize that 2008 California put out Proposition 8. What was Proposition 8, you ask? Well, it allowed voters to take away the rights of same-sex couples to marry. It's not what it did, but this dumb cunt opinion, I don't even know who fucking wrote this. It just says opinion of Time San Diego. So fuck you. So anyway, what it did in 2008 is it allowed California voters to define marriage as a marriage between a man and a woman instead of allowing same-sex marriages. California actually voted it down. And if I'm not mistaken, the Javier Becerra, who's the head of Health and Human Services for the Biden administration, actually just said, "Nah, fuck it, I'm going to sign this into law anyway because fuck you." And when the super blue state of California had this put in front of them in 2008, they voted it the fuck down because California is that fucking blue, right? So now what the state legislature of California is trying to do, instead of fixing fucking inflation and this massive amounts of corruption that they have going on and the drought that's going on and the wildfire that's going on and the fact that we have an open fucking southern border and we have lawless cities and all this other shit. No, no, no. The legislature of California is putting Prop 1 on the bill. And what's Prop 1, you ask? Well, it's a woman's right to abortion codified into the California Constitution. And what this article is pointing out is don't put it in front of the people to decide, because remember the last time you put it in front of the people, they voted the fuck down. So like, yeah, you should just do it yourself, legislature, because you can't trust the will of the people in a state that's so fucking retarded blue that they keep voting for morons like Gavin Newsom, who's likely the front runner for the 2024 Democratic fucking presidential nominee. Fuck you, demoralization. So, what's the good news behind that? Well, I'm sure there's something there. It's, oh yeah, the good news is if you don't live in California, don't do anything that California is doing. You know, if California says don't stare at the sun, stare at the sun. So let's see, demoralization. This was, me as an army veteran. I love this shit. It just makes me not want to wear any of my military stuff ever. Um, and we got two good U.S. Army stories. Oh god, just feel that nostalgia and fucking like fuck you, the fact that I should never fucking serve my country. So the U.S. Army reinstates high school diploma and GED requirements. Fucking morons. So according to this article, 71% of the youth in the country do not qualify for military service due to obesity, minor criminal infractions, or scrutiny of past medical and mental health problems. Only 23% qualify without a waiver of any kind. And mind you, I had a waiver for my weight. I played college football, so I was a big guy when I showed up, and I passed the body fat. Then they got me in with a waiver. So when it talks about a waiver, it does not necessarily mean that big of an issue. I tried to join the Air Force first, and they were like, "No, we just don't give out waivers." And the Army's like, "Fuck you, we'll take anybody." There were dudes that I served with that had this is global war on terrorism that served with waivers, felony waivers, because they needed bodies back when I was in. So some of this is not as bad of a deal as it is, but it says only 23% qualify without a waiver of any kind. 9% of there's only 9% of those who meet the qualifications are willing to join the military. So that's 9% of people that are talked to would join the military. And we'll get into why. But there was backlash of the Army cutting its high school diploma GED requirement. Mind you, if someone doesn't have a high school diploma, all they have to do is pass the GED in order to serve the military, which is a minor step in terms of all things to be able to make sure you have the minimum qualifications to get a job during the middle of this economic downturn when, as the article points out, 40%, the Army has only hit 40% of its recruiting goals for 2022. The article does also point out that uh, recruitment does tend to pick up after high school graduations. Fuck you, no one's joining the military because you fucking suck. Why would anybody want to join the military in this day and age, especially my army? Why would anybody want to join my army when you have some stupid army medic, some stupid fucking sergeant in the army, and I can show you her fucking picture, who decides that she's gonna do a TikTok video whining about how she's supposed to fucking join or how she's supposed to serve her country, uh, uh, when she can't get an abortion on demand. She talks about she's currently deployed. She's worried about uh, contraception, because obviously, and I was deployed for 15 months downrange in Iraq, because the idea is that a woman serving on a deployment in the military, well, she can't stay professional long enough to keep her fucking legs closed. And she also pointed out within the her TikTok. Here's a TikTok. I will play it as I continue to talk about how fucking dumb she is. Yeah, she starts off by saying, "I have thoughts and I have questions," and she talks about how she just woke up from a nap to find out about the fucking Roe decision, and she points out that she doesn't understand how she's supposed to wear a uniform that talks about that has the United States of America on it. You dumb fucking bitch, because they're states. We're 50 states. That means that each individual state should have the 10th Amendment right to run its own fucking ship. That's how easy it is to wear that fucking uniform, because you're representing all 50 states that have their own fucking unique culture, you dumb fucking cunt. Keep your fucking leg closed on a deployment, right? And this is not the deployment I was on. I did a combat rotation. Where the fuck you're at in this country or on deployment right now that you're in a fucking active combat zone? I have no fucking clue with your nice fucking green fucking hooded sweatshirt. You know, uh, she talks about being a second class citizen in the country that allows you to serve and make dumb as fuck TikTok videos shitting on that country that allows you to serve. And essentially, this country has gotten to the point where women can serve in all military occupational specialties when it comes to infantry, all that other shit. That's how little the country thinks of you. You fucking like. Why would anybody want to serve in the military? And that 9%, that nine. Why we only have 9% that are willing to join the military that meet the qualifications. I'm surprised it's fucking that high at this point. I'm sure all those Normandy veterans are like, fuck yeah, this was worth it. This was so fucking worth it. Have this dumb fucking bitch runner fucking suckhole about not being able to get knocked up on a fucking deployment and get proper fucking abortion on fucking foreign. Fuck you. Fuck you. So anyway, let's go on. Oh, yeah, more abortion stuff. I'm just so tired of this shit. This is another bullshit fucking article from Rugers who's fucking trash. But anyway, it's an article about how hoes can't go to particular colleges in red states because they're worried that if they get knocked the fuck up in red states, then they can't get an abortion. So they're choosing to not go to college in red states um because they want to be divorced from the consequences of their actions by going to colleges in blue states. There's a quote in here that says, "What if I go to college in a state where abortion is banned and I get raped, and then I don't have the option to get an abortion?" And it's like, you dumb bitch, you can still go to a fucking different state. That's if the state that you're in doesn't have that caveat within its fucking laws. 50 fucking independent fucking countries. Um, and I pointed out in my notes, like, it's because, like, when I go outside, I take an umbrella with me every day just in case those meteorites come down on me when I leave the house. You're worried about getting raped in the United States when you go to a fucking college out of state. Fuck you, you're fucking stupid. It's a good thing that stupid sticks together. So those people that want to go to fucking college for the purpose of getting higher education don't have to deal with fucking idiots that are worried about getting fucking knocked up on deployments or getting fucking raped when they go to college. This just fucking depresses me. Fuck you. All right. This is a long one today. Obviously, I don't know when I'm gonna pull out. If your pull out game's strong, you don't need to worry about abortion. Um, so there people are changing the definition of words lately. I pointed it out before. So this guy's talking to this specialist. This is behind a paywall, so I really can't get too deep and dark into this, but it's actually talking about something that has been already mentioned before, which the Biden administration is really worried about popping out the R word recession going into the 2022 midterms. So they're doing something right now that they're trying to have experts redefine the definition of what a recession is, which was the negative 2 quarters of growth that defined it for decades. It no longer defines it. They want to put different caveats behind it to so they can officially say what's a recession. Because there's a lot of inconvenient Al Gores out there, and when you have to deal with the truth, well, you might as well just move the goalpost to the point where there's no longer a goalpost and you can't fucking keep score. So we're not going to legitimately go into a recession until the Biden administration gets the definition that they want, and therefore they can, call it a recession. So I have some other stuff. This is going a little long today, but for my co-host who tends to listen to this, I'll just get into it. We have this interesting story that I was reading about that they want to redefine ESG scores. We got some Russia, Japan stuff. This is me searching some stuff out. So we'll go. Let's see if I can find it down here. So Shinzo Abe, who was the former prime minister of Japan, who got shot with a homemade shotgun, assassinated. His party scores major victory in Japan's election. They crushed it. The Liberal Democratic Party and its junior coalition partner, whatever, in Japan, raised their combined share in the 248 seat to 146 by far beyond the majority in the elections for half the seats and less. So again, Shinzo Abe's uh, assassination is likely going to lead to some type of ultra-nationalist movement in Japan, which is good. And I'm sure this happening so close to the elections codified a lot of people's desires. So when we look at like Japan, the creeping ESG score is even going in ESG for because I got to repeat things because that's how salesmen do things. ESG is a score given by asset management companies telling their investors how good the stock is based off of not how financially well the company is operating, but based off of the score, which is environmental social governance score. So it has nothing to do with actual business. It's just if the company is morally running well. So now, because of Russia's war, blindsided the world of ESG, which means if the ESG companies were doing their jobs, they would have downsized like Russia's bank and other Russian stocks before the actual invasion of Ukraine, so people could have gotten out from under Russia's Russian stock and Russian investments based off the fact that they would have said Russia is bad morally. We're going to downgrade their stock and you can get out from them. So this is just interesting that you're having that social credit score influencing what is actually good business because there's nothing that's going to come back to bite you in the butt. So moving on from that, I think I have a longer story on ESG that I was going to bring up. Oh yeah, I do. So we'll talk about that. This is going to be like 2 hours long, but this is what I was doing today. So in this one, we have this Todd Rokita is the Attorney General of Indiana. You know, the state that they 10-year-old girl went to get her abortion. Anyway, good old Todd Rokita. He wrote stuff in here that I found interesting. They are wrong and they are deliberately trying to disguise the fact that ESG investing is a ploy to subvert the will of the people for the sake of progressive politics. So you have something with ESG called stakeholder investing, which is opposed to stockholder investing. So now the stakeholder, because everybody has stake in the investing, which we could go into talking about Eric Holder's memo about why we don't prosecute white collar crime in the country. Anyway, a segue. As he continues, right now the pressure of woke capital comes from three main sources: asset management companies like BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, who use their ownership of the company stock to push those companies leftward. That's not entirely true. It's not about pushing them leftward. It's about socially bullying them to bolster scores. So it's not just about politics. It's about power. Um, so again, it's not about the morals behind it. It's about the ability to control the company and their decision making, which depending on where your agenda is coming from, it could be foreign uh, pressure for a company to go against their interest and the interest of their country because they're worried about their ESG score. So it's not just leftward. It's being pushed to do things that are against the interest of the country in which the business is in. So if you think about Russia, when it's talking about that, you would have businesses in Russia that are worried about their ESG score actively speaking out about the interest of their country. Now, whatever you think about Russia's invasion of Ukraine, it would mean that these companies in Russia would have to speak out against their own country and the interests of their country to artificially keep their ESG score high. So banks, the number two, he talks about banks and insurance companies that refuse to do business with disfavored industries. Again, uh you're talking about having it's not even about the business. It's just like this is monopolies at work that we're just going to choke someone else. This is tort interference. uh the ability for companies to independently function without outside interference. This is illegal, civilly at least, that you could have pressure being put on two independent groups from interacting with each other because someone's worried about a third party coming in and changing their business. So to continue, let's see, that's banks and insurance companies that refuse to do business with disfavored industries such as energy or firearms. In this case, that's what they're talking about, like the coal industry or guns. We're just not going to give you loans because fuck you. And then finally, a government regulators imposing ESG related legal mandates. Yeah, that's what's going on. With that. So again, the government getting involved and putting their own caveats on top of ESG. We've already talked about that in terms of the SEC. That hopefully the EPA decision with the Supreme Court will have an effect on. the SEC being able to overstep what was constitutionally or congressionally mandated their ability to do. So he continues. Most recently, many of these asset managers banded together to elect ExxonMobil board members who want to get Exxon out of the oil and gas business. That's not entirely true. I went and looked it up. They did elect more of an ESG friendly board that are divesting Exxon from the oil and gas business. It's not quite as get Exxon out of the oil and gas business, but that is the direction that the board of Exxon Mobil is doing based off of worry about ESG. There is no reliable evidence that ESG investors produce better returns. Again, are you investing in a company because you want the moral outcome, morals being to a certain extent uh, fluid, or are you just the objective outcome of profitability? That's what business is supposed to be run as. But there is evidence that ESG investing does worse for clients. No fucking shit. It's almost like investing in a company that's not actually worried about fucking your returns is going to do poorly. A former BlackRock insider recently explained in detail how these investments do little for the environment. That's called greenwashing, because now all companies are trying to do is artificially raise their ESG score by doing fucking stupid shit that allows them to virtue signal that they are doing stuff for the environment. But they do help BlackRock's bottom line, because yeah, BlackRock has the ability to extort other companies for the benefit of raising their ESG score. So whatever BlackRock wants, they're de facto the board of the company, because they can own 20 to 30% of their company, and then just lean on them like Matt Damon in fucking Rounders on someone's stack playing poker. So even worse, while companies like BlackRock seek to hamstring the United States energy producing capabilities, and this is a fucking problem because the whole world, especially Western nations, are in some type of energy crisis because of bad fucking governance. Um, they are simultaneously invest in China, which undercuts our national interests and unleashes the COVID-19 pandemic on the world. And again, this is true. China doesn't necessarily give a fuck about ESG scores, and they don't fucking give a fuck about like the US or Western nations virtue signaling. What they give a fuck about is playing the game where China wins. And the US and other Western nations are not playing the game in which their fucking national interests win. You're just letting China win, and they're not going to give a fuck about your fucking environmental scores as they try and solve their own energy producing problems. You're fucking stupid, right? For running ESG. And I'm not a big fan of government coming in and saying no to ESG, but what I'm even bigger, less fan of is the government should be saying we're not going to bail you out for fucking running ESG shit through your fucking private institution. And mind you, this ESG shit is also embedded into unions, and it's embedded into fucking pension programs and other uh, asset management companies that have other pensions invested in. So this ESG shit, this is, if California is the fucking needle, ESG is the fucking bubble at this point. So ESG is taking over our government regulations. The security and the Securities and Exchange Commission that I just fucking talked about recently proposed a rule that would require all publicly traded companies to make expensive disclosures related to ESG score, and the SEC is going to essentially become the de facto regulator of ESG through lobbying by BlackRock, Vanguard, and fucking State Street. Can't make this fucking shit up. So let's go back to some of the stupidity that's going on. Russia's turning off the natural gas supply via key pipeline to Germany. Yes. So what we should have done ahead of time is had the ability to poke the bear more before they invaded Ukraine, because it's almost not like you didn't poke them enough after the fact. So now Russia's turning off the natural gas supply via a key pipeline. The was it the Nord Stream 1, I think it is. If it's down here. Nord Stream 1 pipeline carrying natural gas from Russia to Germany, because Germany's too fucking stupid, because Donald Trump said don't fucking get involved with fucking that gangster Putin, and Germany fucking laughed at Trump. So now Russia's going to turn off the Nord Stream 1 pipeline, and Europe fears that Russia's not going to fucking turn it back on. And I wonder if I was Russia, if I wouldn't fucking extort fucking Europe over this. I'm sure Russia, Putin will fucking play by the rules. Stupid fucks. So Russia is turning off a pipeline carrying natural gas to Germany because Germany's fucking stupid for annual maintenance. Germany's already told their country that they're gonna have fucking problems during the winter because of energy. Um, and they're fear they're not going to turn it back on. And I hope the Russians don't fucking turn it on. The silver lining would be like choke stupid because if otherwise stupid's going to choke you. So, um, in other news, and I didn't know this Canada has the third largest Ukrainian population in the world outside of Ukraine. I did not know that because they actually have a lobbyist group that is the Ukrainian Canada. What is uh, Congress. That's how much they're like 1.3 million people that identify as Ukrainians in Canada. Fucking shocker of all shockers. So anyway, the Canada, as that's the wrong one, I guess. I pulled up the wrong thing. Is this it? No, that's got to be it. So anyway, yeah, I guess this is it. So I don't even have to read the story. I guess I pulled up the wrong one. I thought I had this. So anyway, Uh, what's going on is that Canada had this turbine that they couldn't return to Russia because of the embargoes that are on Russia. And now Canada has decided they are going to give the turbine to Russia. And that's part of why Russia is turning off the pipeline so they can put this turbine in. And now Ukraine is pissed off that Canada has decided to give the turbine back to Russia because Ukraine wants Canada to continue to choke Russia, but and this is pointed out, this is this energy blackmail in here. Yes, it is, but they're pissed off that Canada won't continue to choke Russia because Russia's choking Europe because Ukraine, the big fucking money laundering hole that it is, wants to continue to have power over the rest of the Western world by being the eternal fucking victim. Yeah, does that make any sense to you? It doesn't make any sense to me. So we got like a few more stories, and then I'm out today on this long one because there's a lot of stuff going on. I'm getting tired. I bet you're getting tired, but if people want to listen to me talk about this stuff. So this is another op-ed piece talking about certain people are starting to realize that you have given the keys to the kingdom to morons that don't have your best interests at heart. So what you have now is USA Today, which is the largest circulating paper in the United States that is run by fucking left-wing morons, are realizing now that the Biden administration is so fucking incompetent that they are walking back the rules that the Trump administration did to fix Title IX that the Obama administration weaponized. Title IX being it's a federal civil rights law in the United States that was passed as part of the Education Amendments of 1972. It prohibits sex-based discrimination in any school or other education program that receives federal money. They basically set up kangaroo courts in college campuses to go after men for perceived sexual harassment nonsense stuff. It doesn't matter. The point being is the Dobbs decision, that Roe versus Wade case that essentially gave rights back to women because now women can be treated as women when you have an administration that can't actually define women. So now this person, this Ingrid Jacques, is now worried about the fact that Biden's changes to Title IX, right, strips the sex-based protection from women and gives it to people who to identify from a gender perspective or some from a sexual orientation perspective. So what the Biden administration has done or has done is going to do is allow a man who identifies as a woman to get the same protections as a woman does. Yes. So what happened in the Dobbs case? They said, yeah, you can't do that shit no more. And the Biden administration, they're doing it. So what did the Dobbs case do? Oh yeah, it gave women their rights back. That's what it did. Fuck you, right? And as I pointed out, Title IX already had problems. They already fucked up this Education Amendments of 1972, the civil rights law, to such a point that it was already had problems with due process in it in and of itself, but nobody fucking cares. And to finish out the day, before we talk about a couple other things, is this store another opinion piece by this Carly Pearson, and I went and looked this fucking dumb cunt up, and she's fucking functionally retarded. She's a lawyer that does not understand dick about the country, and she's writing this. opinion piece, I pull up her Twitter so you can get an idea of her. Um, whatever co-native of Mexico and the U.S. How you could be a co-native, I don't fucking know. Human rights lawyer turned writer, feminist, and mom, opinion writer. Ed Board, USA Today, just goes to show how fucking far left the USA Today is. And what did good old Carly Pearson decide that she was going to talk about? Well, Americans can't handle their guns. It's time to repeal the Second Amendment. And we've been here a while. There's no point on burying the lead. Anyway, she's talking about the fact that she wants to have a constitutional convention, and because she doesn't understand how that works, mind you, as I point out right here, she's a lawyer. She actually wrote in one of these things that she's surprised that like how many actual constitutional law experts there are on Twitter. Well, when you don't understand the fucking law, I guess some fucking charlatan sitting in his fucking, you know, garage can fucking school you with my minimal background in fucking constitutional law from my college education. So in this case, she's actually talking about our founding fathers never intended us to have fucking the Third Amendment, because they only made the Constitution and the Bill of Rights with the intention of fighting the British. And as soon as that was over with, well, that they never intended the rest of it to be used. So, why we actually have a Second Amendment with all these things. So she wants to get rid of these 27 words, which is the Second Amendment, that 2A. In 1791, when the Second Amendment was adopted, the founders had one thing in mind: to protect the people against a standing army, specifically the muskets of the British Standing Army of King George. The Second and Third Amendments, that one where they can't put fucking state agents in your house without your fucking without your permission. Kind of important, because if they can control your household, they can control your fucking minds. Meant to read together. Yeah, you fucking think we're about protecting the people from tyranny of professional full-time militaries like the one that we have in our country right now. Much like the one that we have now. Exactly. Yeah. But we see it from a different perspective. They were not intended to protect the people from one another. Yeah, they were. You dumb cunt. Um, they were not intended to protect the people from AR 15 weapons. They had much worse fucking weapons back then, you dumb cunt. But we actually have the writings of the founding fathers and what their actual intent was. So when we have like Thomas Jefferson talking about watering the tree of liberty with the blood of patriots and tyrants, and we have George Washington talking about legitimately having the ability for the people to be able to fight back against the government. That's entirely what the Second Amendment was designed for, was the tyranny of the state, right? So whatever constitutional law course they went through for her to get her fucking lawyering fucking stupidity, they didn't teach her about any of the shit that's going on, but instead she's going to write an article and this is the other interesting thing where I wanted to talk about this stupid fuck. It took 5 decades of campaigning for conservatives to get the constitutional right to abortion overturned in the Supreme Court. No, it didn't. So let's back this up for a second. That constitutional right, the Supreme Court came back and said, no, it was never a constitutional right. So this is your opinion, obviously, because it's an editorial. Repealing the Second Amendment may look a lot like a long shot today, but if progressives and moderates show up in full force to vote the people into office in the next couple of decades, nothing is possible. How Roe versus Wade got overturned, you absolute fucking numpty, was for 5 decades, the left couldn't leave good enough alone and continued to chip away at the states what little laws that they passed in order to prevent any type of abortion. The left kept going after it to the point that eventually, after 5 years of the left campaigning to get the constitutional right of abortion overturned, the left finally succeeded when they bit off more than they could fucking chew. And at that point, the Supreme Court said, "Okay, we will relook at this. This was not right wing, campaigning. This was left wingers saying we want the right to uh, abortion after birth in this country." And eventually, someone said, "Fuck you, that's fucking retarded," and then you lost it. So in this case, you functionally don't understand how the country was designed. You don't understand about the law or the founding fathers, or even the reality of what happened with the Dobbs case. And you're out there talking about why we should repeal the Second Amendment in a country right now that has a crisis between two ideological sides that were balkanizing into two societies that live within the same state. and you think that this is a fucking good outcome when the actual outcome of the Dobbs case just kicked it back to the individual 50 states. And in this case, even if we were to do something like that, all that would happen with the Second Amendment is you'd have certain red states that were like, yeah, you have the right to defend yourself from both criminals and from the tyranny of the state. And then you'd have all these other blue states that had people like Pearson that would be running them, where you would just be at the mercy of the tyranny, of the state. If you give up security, or excuse me, if you give up freedom for security, you will have neither, and you deserve neither. Benjamin Franklin. I wonder what side of the fucking Second Amendment he was on. So anyway, just so we're up to date for little things as I get the fuck out of here, because I know at about an hour and a half to go. Two stories I'm tracking on. One I can't find anything on, so I don't really want to say that much about it. Supposedly, the UPS, the shipping company, is confiscating gun parts and destroying them. Um, I've only heard about it in the ether. I don't have anything good to talk about it, but it's just something to keep in mind. And then the other thing that's going on right now is something broke today about Uber and how they were corrupt as fuck trying to spread their virus across the world. So I'll probably look into that and talk about that tomorrow. But anyway, like I pointed out, um, you know, the Bidens never met a 10-year-old that they didn't like. And silver linings someplace.